going. So, what's your opinion of the 80s? Good decade or bad decade?
So, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I was also going to talk about this at the beginning. I realized while making this list that most of what I like in the 80s is just horror or horror adjacent.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of 80s dramas that I've just been like, I gotta revisit that. We are really getting into the territory, fair warning to our loyal listeners, where this is John's time to shine from here on out. I am a degenerate zoomer and have not seen enough old movies, and when I have seen old movies, they're usually horror movies. So my tastes, my viewing experiences are a little skewed.
Yeah, I think mine is actually kind of skewed similarly to yours in the 80s overall. I think like the 70s is where it starts to really kick in for me, but yeah, I don't know, I feel like the 80s and also the 50s have this aura to them that are like, or like this like vibe of like, there was like a dream, which may or may not have actually like conformed to reality, but is still like very strong. Yeah. Because like, I mean, the 50s has like this dream of like Americana, but then you have like segregated bathrooms still. Yep. So it's like, you know.
Yeah, I will say, like, the horror stuff in the 80s that I like is really good.
It was a terrific age for horror.
I mean, just some great... And we're going to get into it, I'm sure. The other thing I realized while making this list, and this is a gap in what I've seen, there's a lot of foreign films in the 80s that I haven't seen that I want to watch, and I'm sure some of those are probably on your list. That, to me, is, like, the other thing that's interesting about the decade. Even, like I'm pretty sure a Wim Wenders is not going to show up in this conversation.
No.
I have really not seen any Wim Wenders. I think that's a big... I think I would maybe like his movies, but I need to, like, give him the time of day.
I feel like he's kind of boring. I'm just going to be that guy, but, like, I feel... I've seen him in Fassbender, and I feel like they're both kind of boring. Yeah. But Herzog's pretty good, so...
Yeah.
I like Herzog, so... Do you want to start with honorable mentions, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with honorable mention. So my first honorable mention is Phenomena by Dario Argento.
Nice, yes.
1985. Honestly, stop me before this winds up in my top 5, because I do love this movie. Like, I love Phenomena. As I was thinking about it, I just like... we had a really good viewing experience of this, seeing it in theaters at Alamo's Dismember the Alamo event. Shout out Dismember the Alamo. It's my favorite.
It's a good
favorite thing.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Keeps me alive every year. Just wait in front of the Dismember the Alamo.
Yeah.
No, I love Phenomena. I think for those in our audience who are not familiar with this movie, we just got to talk about some of the things that are in it without adding any context. Because once you understand the things that are in it, you're going to understand why this movie's amazing. So the premise is that what is the lead actress's name?
Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah. Jennifer Connelly stars.
She's like very young.
She stars as like a high school girl who, when you were in high school, this was definitely not the kind of girl who was unpopular or liked bugs. But because it suits Dario Argento's whimsy, she is unpopular and she can communicate with insects. And that is just the premise. That is just the first couple minutes of the film.
Basic, like, groundwork.
This movie also includes a gratuitous rock score, beautiful shots of the Alps, a professor with a monkey sidekick, a giant pit of goo, and dream sequences and a surprise killer. It's got everything. All the things that I like are in this movie. Yeah. It's amazing.
And to add to it, that the professor is played by Donald Pleasance.
Played by Donald Pleasance.
Fresh off of Halloween 2 or 4 or something. So
somewhere in that wonderful franchise. Yeah, but this is I guess not an official Giallo, right?
It's not a Giallo. It's complicated to explain what a Giallo is, but basically this is too supernatural for it. Okay. But it basically is a Giallo because it has the style.
It has... so Giallo, basically Italian slasher movies from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, basically.
For those who aren't familiar, they do not usually have a very logical plot. You have to kind of just enjoy the dreamlike, but not in a Lynchian way. Dreamlike in just a freewheeling, free associating kind of way. And that is what Phenomena is. And you will either love it or hate it. And I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I would describe the dreamlike manner of like Dario Argento's films as being kind of like trying to replicate a dream honestly on screen, regardless of if the movie's good or not. You know. Yeah. But freewheeling is a good way to put it. That's why it's not on my list. But Tenebrae, which came out before this, which is a Giallo, feels so much like a movie from the early 70s, even though it came out in 82. It's like freewheeling.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the thing I really love about Dario Argento movies and about Phenomena is it just feels like he's just trying to represent something that he's got in his head that he likes. And that really comes across, even though the movie is kind of insane. Yeah. It's just like one memorable image after another. And it really does have a nice, like, I don't know, almost like, for some reason it strikes a similar chord to me as like a Hardy Boys or a Nancy Drew kind of vibe, where there is kind of a gee whiz childhood aspect to it as well. And I like that. It's whimsical and it's very strange.
Yeah, it feels almost like an anime that's live action, just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, right, you want to? I'll mention my next one. So my first honorable mention is probably the lowest rated film we will ever bring up in one of these ranked videos.
Okay.
And it feels a lot like a giallo, even though it's not technically because it's Spanish. The film is called Pieces. Came out in 1982. It's directed by Juan Piquer Simon. It's a Spanish slasher film about this guy who's like killing women basically, and it has all the like giallo slasher things you could expect. I think what I like about this film is that it feels the most like a dream that I've ever seen in one of these kind of movies. So it really does, like, when I look back on it, it feels almost like I dreamed it. I also really like how twisted the psychology is. Like, the opening scene is of this kid, he's like building a puzzle, and his mom comes into the bedroom and she's like, oh, what's going on here? And then she sees the puzzle is of a naked woman. And this kid is like 10 or younger, so give you context.
You know how your kids sometimes get naked women puzzles from Toys R Us.
Yeah. So she's like punishing him, and it's like, you can't do this, I'm throwing the puzzle away. So the kid decides to take an axe and murder his mom in his bedroom, just like blood spewing everywhere. And this is like
seems proportionate.
Yeah, this is like his origin story. So that's like the beginning of his like descent into killing women, basically.
Damn.
That kind of like twisted like psychology, I think, is like very interesting, like aberrant psychology, but it also like comes into like this mystery because obviously they show you him as a kid, and then they want you to like figure out, okay, which of these people was the was that kid, you know?
Oh,
so like
interesting.
So it is like a mystery.
So that's cool because you've been introduced to the character, but you still don't know which adult character is that individual. That's neat. I like that.
It's Giallo-esque in that way because like Giallos are like mysteries basically. So it has that like element to it. It feels
that is something we should mention about Giallo is it's usually a mystery that can be solved is part of the point of it. There are clues that if you're following along you can piece it together.
Correct. Phenomena doesn't really have a mystery.
Correct.
Just a little bit.
Well, there is a surprise killer, but I wouldn't say you could piece it together. It's just sort of like, okay, you're the killer, all right.
I guess that's the killer, yeah. But in Pieces you can piece it together, so to speak. Yeah. And I did actually figure it out towards the end. I thought it was pretty satisfying.
Nice.
But if it's just like a trashy slasher, not necessarily a great film, but it definitely like has all the charms of a giallo. Yeah. So I highly recommend it if that's your vibe.
That actually, you've sold me on it. I might watch that this October.
You should. I found it on Tubi. It's one of those things where I was like scrolling through Tubi and I saw a poster and I'm like, I'll just watch this, you know? And it was perfect. It was like that little nugget, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
So my next honorable mention is, like a lot of the movies on my list, unfortunately, so well known it almost feels like there isn't a ton to say about it. But it's Videodrome by David Cronenberg, 1983. A little context about me. I actually grew up right at the tail end of that video store era. So I think you're similar in that you probably owned a lot of VHS tapes. Your family did.
We went to the library more often, but yeah, I remember where the Blockbuster was in my town. So.
Yeah, so I have many childhood memories of being taken to Blockbuster while my parents picked out something. And there was always, I can totally understand for someone who might have been like a teenager when VHS stores were a thing. I can totally understand how that would produce a Quentin Tarantino, because there was always something like satisfyingly seedy about Blockbuster that we've just lost. You just can't ever get back.
Agreed.
There's like a materialness to it, and like you've got all these really great like hand painted VHS covers. And so when I think about Videodrome, I just think it really captures the seediness of video stores, even though it's much earlier than the video stores that I would have experienced. Like just that like psychosexual horror, like it's all kind of there. And I mean, this movie is very in keeping with a lot of other films that I've put on my previous lists. It exists at the intersection of a lot of things that I think I tend to like in movies. But it still feels fresh, too. Even though it's, like, about the VHS era, I think a lot of the same concerns about technology and how it's shaping us and what our future is as a result, all of the things that it has to say about television media feel applicable and interesting in the internet era. I don't think any of that's gone away. So I really like that it's got that aspect to it where it's like both very of its time and yet also has a message that still seems to resonate and it feels thought-provoking in 2025.
Yeah, I like the story that Cronenberg tells because this was inspired by him. He's obviously from Toronto, Canada. And what he would do late at night is when the Canadian TV shows would turn off, he would watch the American TV channels from like Buffalo or wherever. And you never know what would come on the overnight day part on television. Like it could be anything, you know, like pornography or whatever, or just like creepy movies, or just like random like extremist ranting and stuff. And that kind of like vibe of like having this frontier or like this like unknown sphere in television is just something that doesn't really exist anymore in the era of the internet. That's just kind of been killed to some degree, or at least with like cable and stuff and the FTC and whatever. And honestly, that's something that is like something I really regret, or something I like kind of yearn for, almost like in a nostalgic way, even though it was before my time to some degree. But you can kind of get a little bit of that from this movie. You still can get a little bit of that. So
frontier is a great word because it also makes me think a little bit of like the early internet era, like the 4chan era of the internet, when things felt a little dangerous. You could just stumble across a random beheading video. You know, and there's upsides and downsides to that, but there is that interesting, like the frontier experience of like going somewhere where the rules are not there and you're not really sure what you're going to experience.
The underground.
Videodrome is about that.
Yeah, the underground, the world of the bootleg.
Yes.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Which is harder and harder to find, but...
Also, and this is going to be a theme throughout my list, because I think the 80s were the golden era of this, but the practical effects are amazing.
They're terrific. They hold up perfectly.
Yes.
It's interesting because it's intellectually like challenging to some degree. Like the film is about like media in an intellectual way, but also is like an exceptional special effects horror movie.
Yeah.
So.
The stomach vagina that he sticks the videotape into. So strange, and it looks great. Like that shot where he's on the couch. I mean it. If you were watching it, it looks almost seamless on a nice Blu-ray. Yeah. And I can just imagine, like, watching that on a grainy VHS, it would have looked seamless. Yeah. Like, it would have been perfect.
Exactly.
So, love that about it. And also, just a quick shout out to James Woods, you know? Yeah. Who is maybe not a great actor, but is extremely well cast in this. Yeah. He's exactly right to play the part of this seedy, you know... definitely a little bit horny kind of television executive who's also fundamentally not a bad guy exactly. He's just sort of a scamp, sort of a miscreant, you know?
Yeah, that's good too. Miscreant, yeah.
I really like James Woods in this role, and I don't think the movie would be the same without him playing that character. So
yeah, much better casting than that Scanners movie.
Yeah, so, this movie predicted usernames. The whole what's his name? The doctor.
Yeah, the doctor that is like has their video recordings and lives through them. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
John, you'll have to do a voiceover here to correct me in the edit. Give the guy's name because that's the thing I'm trying to point out.
Yeah, I'll put the name in the pinned comment.
Yes.
Look below in the pinned comment if you're on YouTube.
But yeah, Videodrome. I love it. Cool. It's a fantastic movie.
All right. My next honorable mention I think might be on your list, so we can skip it if it is. So we're going to skip my next honorable mention because it's on Adam's list somewhere. So I'm going to go to my third one. And this is a movie that I thought would actually be on my list, but ended up getting knocked off. And it's Blood Simple from 1984, directed by the Joel Nathan Cohen. What I like about this movie is that it's so Old Testament in a way that it's kind of like, if it has that like Old Testament Jewish law attitude in like in like a completely secular way. Mm-hmm. Like, It's like, one, they're making crime films, so like that, like breaking the law, literally. But the world just kind of snaps back at you. I think of like that scene where the guy who runs he like runs the bar, he like gets killed, or you know, like that scene, and the guy has to like bury the body, and it's like this whole dramatic thing, and it's just like very complicated. Like that kind of like comic attitude that the Coen brothers have is so Old Testament in such a like modern secular way, and I love it. It's so funny. But I also think this is just a perfect debut because Yeah, this is like the Coen's debut film, and it's like comes out pretty much perfectly Coen's. Like it feels like a Coen's movie. It fits very perfectly in like one of their other films, later films. Yeah. So I think it's really cool. So, yeah. Great comedy thriller movie.
Great lighting in this movie. Just like a extremely memorable use of like one of my favorite lighting tropes of the 80s and the 90s, which is like sort of like a blue shaft of light coming through either windows or fog. There's a lot of that kind of thing in this movie, and I always makes me happy whenever something's lit that way.
Yeah, it has like a noir, like it's neo-noir in a sense. It has like neon lights.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Cool. And then this might be on your list, actually. I'm not sure. Actually, probably not. My last honorable mention is The Thing by John Carpenter.
It's not. Nope.
1982. Okay.
But that's a great film.
So this list, again, as I said at the beginning, it's going to be a lot of horror movies. In my opinion, The Thing really doesn't do anything wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with this movie. Correct. It is very, very good. I don't have quite the same personal connection to it that I do to some other 80s horror films. And so that's why it's an honorable mention for me as opposed to like actually being on my list. But that being said, it's a tight movie. It's got amazing practical effects again, and it's got Kurt Russell being Kurt Russell.
Exactly.
The whole way through.
Yeah.
It's destroying a computer because it beat him at chess.
Yeah, I like that. That's like that little moment like shows you his attitude throughout the film. He like when that computer beats him at chess, he like dumps his alcohol on it and says "fuck it." you know, that's just his whole attitude throughout the whole movie.
Yes.
It's also like kind of a mystery film a little bit because you don't know who is the monster, and then like suddenly appears. But this is like another like Videodrome perfect special effects movie. Mm-hmm. Just like exceptional special effects.
Yep. And you gotta like, it's amazing that these effects look so good on the Blu-rays that we watch today, because they were made for an era where you were assuming people were going to be putting in shitty VHS tapes or maybe seeing it in theater.
Yeah, on film,
right.
Yeah.
But then that would be like a 1 maybe 2 time thing, and then any like recurring reference to it would be on terrible tiny little television.
Yeah.
So like the fact that this stuff holds up so well is just like, in a way, I almost wish I would have watched this in the VHS era, because I think it would be even more impactful. But
I honestly think that there are a lot of 80s films. I think all the movies we've mentioned so far would actually benefit from VHS in a strange way. The 4Ks are great and all, but like some movies actually work very well on VHS. I think these actually all would.
And at the risk of just getting us all out of order, you can edit this out if you want to.
That's fine.
Because I'm going to reference a movie that's actually on my list.
Okay.
But as I was getting ready for today, I rewatched the original 80s theatrical trailer for Evil Dead 2. I also watched the current trailer, like the most recent one for the most recent Blu-ray release or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not just because the Blu-ray is newer that it has a bad trailer. Like, sometimes people just make bad trailers. But, like, the original 80s trailer is so amazing because it looks like a Grindhouse trailer. It's got, like, the distortions on the film. And that's what you want for Evil Dead 2. You almost don't want to see Evil Dead 2 in perfect 4K resolution.
Correct.
Because it's about a guy being trapped in a nightmare house for 2 hours. You want it to feel seedy and trashy and, like, just a little bit dirty and off.
Yeah, especially for such a special effects heavy movie.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing is a little bit different because I will say, the Antarctica setting is really neat. It feels very authentic.
Yes.
I think they actually, did they go to Antarctica to do some of the helicopter shots?
I have no clue.
I think we'll have to fact check that as well. But my understanding is I think some of the establishing shots are actually Antarctica. And it feels authentically chilly throughout, and I think that stuff holds up really well on Blu-ray. But the broader point about those special effects, just like looking better if you can't see them as well, is definitely something that I have a nostalgia for.
Definitely.
But
This also has the distinct honor of being a John Carpenter movie with a John Carpenter score made by someone other than John Carpenter. It's by Ennio Morricone. So,
and you can't tell.
You can't tell. He hired him to just to copy him.
Yes.
Of all people, too.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay,
cool.
So do you want me to start the lists?
Yeah, let's jump into the lists.
So, my number one, I feel like haven't been as big a fan of this as in the past, but I rewatched this, I think, twice for this, and I do actually really like it. It's Raging Bull. It's directed by Martin Scorsese and came out in 1980. I think what really clicks for me about this is that Jake LaMotta is like the same meat-headed guy that he is from beginning to end. Like he's the same kind of like just kind of dopey guy a little bit, but there's something that changes in him in that during most of the movie is looking for absolution and forgiveness through basically self-harm in the boxing ring. Like the boxing ring is like kind of the way that he tries to make up for what he's doing outside of the ring to some degree. But by the end, he realizes that's actually not working, and it brings him to like the lowest point in his life, like in prison in Miami. And then you see at the end, he tries to make up with his brother, and it's kind of an awkward scene because he's like kind of invading his brother's personal space when his brother doesn't really want him to be there. But there's at least like some change in him that sees that like, no, you're not going to actually like make up for it through this kind of self-harm behavior or like through in like the violence. You actually just have to ask for forgiveness and like recognize that that's like the only way that it really works. I think that's kind of the key to like its Christian themes. Like Jake LaMotta throughout the film is still like kind of meat-headed. Like he doesn't really like lose that aspect of him, but he does change his view in that way, or like he grows in that way in a small capacity. I think that's like a very nuanced thing that Robert De Niro really brought to this performance, and that is really like I haven't really seen that anywhere else, like that kind of subtlety. But even if you don't really care about that, like the boxing scenes in this are amazing. The family drama is very intense and very real. So like the violence on this movie is extremely meaningful. So yeah, I think I'm not as hot on this as I used to be, but I think it holds up in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do you think about Raging Bull? I don't know how many times you've seen it, but
I've only seen it once, and I remember liking it, thinking well of it. I thought about including it on the list, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. Yeah, I don't know. Just haven't had the urge to go back to it. Not through any like dislike of it or something, but again, I just. For whatever reason, like 80s dramas just have not largely grabbed me.
Yeah, I don't think I would like this if Martin Scorsese hadn't like made it. If it wasn't like his specific style and his specific way of doing it. What I like about it, it is a biopic. Scorsese was like, he's the secret king of biopics. Like this, Goodfellas, Casino, Raging, Wolf of Wall Street, all biopics.
Yeah.
But this isn't, there's a lot of fiction in biopics, but this one is specifically clear that it's more about the religious themes to some degree, or like, it's not meant to be like a precise history of a man's life. It's meant to be more about the general themes of that man's life, or like using that, like a real person's life to kind of explore these more universal themes.
Yeah.
But I like how he's obviously very violent. He acts like an animal. He treats his wife horribly. But he also, like, subtly knows that what he's doing is wrong, and that's why you have the scene where he's, like, trying to get Sugar Ray Robertson to, like, repeatedly beat him up. So, yeah, I think I like some of the other Scorsese's better, like Taxi Driver, Main Streets, Goodfellas, but this one is still pretty good. I like it. Also, the period detail is surprisingly well done. Like, I noticed, because it starts in, like, the early 40s in the Bronx, and then, like, obviously it goes into the 50s in, like, Miami. And it's actually very interesting how it goes from, like, almost like that gangster, like, that type of 40 suit, until that, like, tacky kind of, like, 50s vibe a little bit. It actually is really well done. Yeah. In a subtle way.
Yeah, I mean, Scorsese always has a very good sense of time as well as place in his movies. I mean, to go back to our last episode, like, the horrible 70s suits in Casino are amazing. Definitely. And definitely give that film a strong sense of time, temporality.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It also doesn't help that this character is extremely unlikable, like Jake LaMotta. Like, a lot of people, I was looking up, like, reviews, and a lot of people are like, this guy sucks. I don't like this movie because he's just so unlikable. Yep. That's fair, but I do think, like, there is a reason why. Like, he's kind of an exaggerated form of what a lot of people are like, where they do bad things and they know it's wrong, and they want to find absolution in some way, but they don't really know how, and usually is expressed in this kind of harsh way. Yeah. And it's also interesting because there's a shot at the beginning where he's, like, preparing for a comedy club, and they have a pretty quick shot of his face, just, like, absolutely deformed by the boxing. And then they cut to him, like, looking pretty much normal, with, like, a normal nose. Like, if you look at his nose, it, like, slowly becomes more and more deformed. So, yeah. Also, he, like, got super fat for this role, too, towards the end, so.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember it being shocking. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I heard he had, like, permanent health issues from that, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so.
Huh.
Yeah, dedicated man, I guess.
So in a way, it sounds like this is a subtler version of Bad Lieutenant. Like, it's very similar themes of, like, yeah, this person is bad. This is not a good person.
Yeah, I think, I think Bad Lieutenant is, like, a more powerful film, like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
But this one is, like, just in a more subtle way, like, Robert De Niro is a bit more subtle. Scorsese is a bit more subtle, so, yeah.
Well, you've made me want to rewatch it, so...
Cool.
You've done a good job of selling it.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, conveniently, since we've nearly talked about it twice, Evil Dead 2 is my number 5.
Yeah, this was my second honorable mention, so we're finally going to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know that I have a ton of observations here that are brand new, but the fact that this is a horror comedy that doesn't compromise on being horrifying or funny is really, really impressive to me. I was thinking about this, like, other horror comedies. There are other horror comedies that I like a lot. I really love Night of the Demons 2, but Night of the Demons 2, the thing about that movie is it's really more of a comedy that takes place in a horror universe. Like, when I watch that movie and enjoy it, it's because I think it's funny, I'm laughing with it, and, like, there's some cool practical effects and things that I like because they're practical effects. But there isn't really anything particularly unsettling to me in that movie that I think back on as like, ooh, that was scary. I know I've mentioned to you many a time the scene in Evil Dead 2 where the taxidermied deer head turns and starts laughing and the whole house starts laughing is like genuinely chilling to me. And I rewatched it, and this is not a good way to remind yourself of why a movie's scary because you need to be in it, but like even just rewatching that clip on YouTube kind of skeeves me out. There's just something so unnatural about the way that taxidermied head moves, and then Bruce Campbell just kind of losing his mind and laughing along at the horror of it all. There's a very, like, just nightmarish quality to this movie, the way he's just stuck and he really can't get out. And he can't really win. Like, these forces are kind of beyond him on some level, but he's just fighting against them anyway, because why not? It's kind of a terrifying premise. It's kind of horrific.
Yeah. And
yet it's also got just a ton of really hilarious, like, boobery. Just, like, physical comedy of him falling around with a mannequin head in his hand, trying to smash it. And...
It's like slapstick.
Yes, it's very slapstick. It is... I was laughing aloud rewatching just scenes of it. But it's also really, really unsettling. I love that. I think it's a really hard line to walk.
Yeah. This is almost like a remake of the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
With the original one was like this over-the-top, like, one of the last X-rated films, like, classic films.
Mm-hmm.
This extreme, gruesome movie that was pretty fun, but honestly more of a straight horror movie.
Yes.
This one is like the ultimate marriage between comedy and horror, as you said.
Yes.
It blends them so well together that it's kind of like one coherent tone. It's very over the top, but it's one coherent tone that will make you laugh and cry at the same time. That is the perfect balancing act. Like, there is not a misstep in this whole thing. It's insane. That is kind of amazing. You know? The fact that Sam Raimi was able to pull this off is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And special effects, again, are amazing.
Yes.
You know? There's maybe not as much to, like, dissect in terms of the themes. Cause it's not really about the themes. It's more about the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
It's just a fun movie.
There's an awesome scene, I'm laughing just thinking about it, where, so his girlfriend's head falls in his lap when he's calming down, he's like, okay, alright, everything's fine. His girlfriend's head falls in his lap, and he runs around for like Bruce Campbell, just 5 minutes of him just like falling over with his mannequin head on his hand.
Yeah.
It's very funny. He goes out to the tool shed, he pulls back this curtain, and he's like, chainsaw! And there's a chalk outline on the wall to let us know that there should be a chainsaw, but there isn't one.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, chainsaw! And then at that exact moment, this like horrifying little creature comes bursting in with the chainsaw. He has to fight it off, and then he turns back, and the wife's head is like his wife again. And he starts crying because he has to kill her, and it's like this crazy roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
I love it. It's amazing. I just love him being like, chainsaw. There's a chalk outline to show that it isn't there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's visual storytelling at its most extreme.
Yes.
It's overstimulating in the best ways.
Yeah.
It's also like perfect. Well, we're gonna do a full episode next, I think.
Yeah.
And we probably won't put this on that list just because we want to do more interesting things.
Yeah.
But this is has a perfect rustic fall vibe.
Yeah.
Like that cabin in the woods, like fall aesthetic. That the first one also nails, but this one I think just completely surpasses the first one in just how well it blends tones.
Yeah, because the first one you are a little bit, like, to the extent that it's funny, it's more just like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, all this is happening. There's, like, more intentional, like, Three Stooges-esque comedy in this. Just a lot of, like, getting bonked on the head, just, like, funny physical things. Like, his hand getting possessed and he keeps smashing stuff over his own head. Which, by the way, like, I know everybody says this, but, like, Bruce Campbell is just so great in this. I love how when his hand gets possessed, it really does feel like there's another force moving it. Like, even though it's just him...
His acting.
It's a hard thing to do, but his hand acting is very good.
His hand is a good actor.
Yeah, his hand is a good actor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like you said, not a lot to dissect here, but just a cool movie.
Yeah, this is one of the best, like, emotional experiences of the 80s. One of the most unique. And it's, like, I guess, technically a mainstream movie, so...
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so... Definitely recommend. Also, the ending is insane. I don't think either of us have seen Army of Darkness yet, but...
I want to watch it.
Big spoilers. I guess we're going to spoil the ending real quick. Ash gets stuck in the Middle Ages. He, like, is transported back in time to the Middle Ages, so he's, like, super fucked.
Because why not?
Yeah, so that gives you the bit of the, like, comic horror attitude. I remember seeing that, it's like, well, it's ridiculous, but I'm also like, if I was actually stuck like that, I would be like, fucked, you know? That would be horrible. So, yeah, a bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie. Highly recommend for fall. Alright, so my number 4, I'm pretty sure this is higher on your list, but it's The Fly by David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
This is from 1986. This is a film about a guy who accidentally becomes transformed into a fly-human hybrid due to his own stupid experiments and alcohol. And then, over time, he transforms into this more fly, like more, like, physically looks more like a fly. And it's pretty horrific because, again, the effects are amazing. So it actually looks very convincing when, like, his, like, body parts start to collapse, like his fingernails are coming out, his jaw's popping off, and, like, he's, like, spitting out goo to, like, decompose food and stuff like that. So it's pretty, like, gross and sad like that. But overall, it's, like, probably the only horror film I can think of, or at least major one, that feels like a Shakespearean tragedy in that way. It is a horror movie, but it's also, like, a romantic tragedy, where, like, you have, like, his girlfriend here, who's watching her boyfriend just completely disintegrate. And it's kind of like this big metaphor for disease. Like, AIDS was obviously, like, a big one at the time, but it could also be, like, cancer or any kind of, like, Alzheimer's, if you want. Yeah. It's one that destroys the body in some way. This is another example, like The Thing, where it's like a horror sequel or a horror remake that came out in the 80s that really shows up the original. Yep. So, yes.
Yeah, this is my number 3, but I'm not mad that we're talking about it because I think it's actually great to talk about this right after Evil Dead 2 because they're both interesting to me because they meld horror with another tone that is, like, kind of hard to pull off. Like, if you're listening to this, you're like, like, surely this 80s horror movie with a lot of goopy practical effects isn't actually sad. But it is. Yeah. It's, like, a genuinely... And a lot of that comes down to Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum having amazing chemistry in this.
Absolutely.
Because you kind of figure out, like, the premise of this movie, probably 30 minutes into it, it's very clear, like, where this is going and how this is going to end. But it doesn't matter. It never feels like a foregone conclusion or, like disengaging because you care about them so much as characters. And I think, like, the reason I like this so much more than other Cronenberg movies is that it's personal like that. Like, it's about these characters more than any overarching, like, society kind of observation. It's more like, no, like, these are just some people. And to your point, like, it's not about any specific disease so much as just a fear that all of us can relate to, which is the fear of, like, aging and personal decay and, like, the reality that things fall apart with us. And it's surprising how a movie with such goopy and, like, traditionally satisfying horror practical effects can also feel, like, very operatic, I would say.
Operatic, yeah, that's how the orchestral score really sells that.
Yes. Like, it is, the emotions are definitely kind of heightened. It's not the most grounded thing. but I still find it really moving in the same way that an opera or a Shakespearean tragedy like aspires to be something sort of like everyone can relate to these characters in a way, and that's kind of what The Fly does.
Yeah.
So I love that about it. Yeah, I think I've said a lot of the things I want to say about it, but
yeah, Jeff Goldblum's really good. I really like his performance. He is the ugliest man ever, and somehow they made him look a lot uglier.
Yeah.
Gina Davis also like really sells like the grief, kind of like, because it's like my grandfather died of Alzheimer's, and it's kind of like that kind of thing where it's like watching someone you love just like slowly become something else, or like slowly die. That's like the central horror and tragedy of it. It's like both of them.
Yep.
So, yeah, I remember that poor baboon that
Yeah.
gets like fried and stuff. Apparently, there's a deleted scene where he like tries to fuse another baboon and a cat.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm kind of glad they did it because it makes him look way more evil than he like he's not evil, like he's flawed, but he's not evil necessarily.
Yeah, the movie is not really like a crime and punishment thing at all. Like, I mean, the baboon experiment is a little saddening, but I don't think that's really what we're supposed to take away from it. Like, he's a fundamentally well-intentioned person. That's kind of where the horror of the movie lies, is that he's charismatic and charming and has a really wholesome relationship with Gina Davis, and they're nice to be on screen around.
Yeah.
And something terrible still happens to him, and all of that stuff can go away very quickly because of the like fragility of the human condition, you know?
Yeah. This movie's also very efficient. I also realized, which Red Letter Media pointed out, like the very first scene is like them just talking about like, oh, I want to show you my experiment. You know, it's not like, you know, like a modern movie where they'd have this drawn out thing where you see them both in their normal day lives and then eventually convene 40 minutes later at the beginning of plot. You know, you know, it's like to the point, like where it in, and I think like it's efficient but not like so fast. Like it's efficient. It's not like speedy or like rushed.
Yeah. So,
have you ever seen the sequel?
No, I know you guys watched it though.
Yeah, it's a lot more mean-spirited, and they show you way more of like the fly stuff. Like they have like a fly monster running around a base and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's all right, but
I will say one last thing that deserves to be praised about this is Goldblum, who I think is a legitimately good actor and a very sort of good comedic actor, but like acting through all those layers of practical effects is probably really, really hard to do, and it's impressive because you don't notice it. Like, you don't think about the fact that this is a man wearing a lot of, like, rubber and plastic.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this is what's happening to his character, and it always feels pretty seamless, which I like a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, terrific film.
Good one. So my number 4, which I'm really curious to see if it's on your list, I have to think it probably is Blue Velvet.
Yeah, this is my number 3.
Oh, okay, alright. So we're in agreement here for sure. A really good movie. I mentioned the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew earlier in the context of Phenomena, but that was on my mind really because I was thinking about this movie. There's always a little bit of a gee-whiz detective thread in all of David Lynch's stuff that I think I at least don't actually think about very much, but it's really strongest in this movie, where you have like these scenes of Jeffrey and Laura Dern's character, whose name escapes me.
We'll put that in the pin comment.
Yeah, just walking around this town hand in hand, and they start getting interested in this mystery, and there's something very wholesome about it all. Authentically wholesome.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in a lot of 80s slasher movies, you'll have like a patina of wholesomeness that's immediately interrupted, but you can tell it's not real. Like, it feels like seedy and gross.
Yeah.
But like, Jeffrey really authentically feels like just a small town good kid who gets interested in a mystery. But then, like all great David Lynch movies, what's great is that when he starts peering into the darkness of this underbelly that Frank lives in, the darkness is also authentically dark. And it just sets it up for such a really, just like engaging movie where it feels like both good and evil are both very real and like very just like earnestly represented. So yeah, I love that. It feels like a Hardy Boys novel that like doesn't flinch away from the darkness, but like totally falls down the rabbit hole of like the repressed side of your mind.
Yeah, I feel like that the gee whiz like detective thing kind of comes from Hitchcock to some degree, like, but it also is something I've thought about a fair bit. It kind of like is something that is baked a little bit into the thriller or into the noir is like that person who feels like they are out of their depth. That is kind of like a very common thriller theme that maybe is something that was mainly a Hitchcock thing that everyone's just kind of riffing on now, but that is something that I think the genre does very well. But yeah, what I like about that isn't it's like kind of like an allegory a little bit for Jeffrey dealing with his shadow, where Frank is kind of like his shadow or like his repressed side that is kind of bubbling to the surface, and it's obviously very dramatic how it's like shaped out, but it kind of deals with like that noir thing of like going down into the seedy underbelly of society, but it also does it in a more psychoanalytical way.
Yes,
which I think is really cool. It does like the noir thing very well. It's kind of like Twin Peaks, where you have like the small town. This one is in like coastal North Carolina. Like underneath, you have like the actual like gross elements, like a kidnapping and like these crazy people and stuff, like at nightclubs and stuff. It's obviously not as fleshed out as Twin Peaks because it was like only a 2-hour movie. But I also think like this is like if Twin Peaks was perfect. Like there's no like bad second season. It's just like this is like the perfect like version of that.
Yeah.
So
the point about the Gee Whiz detective being baked into the thriller is actually a really good one because I just watched Dressed to Kill.
Yeah.
Which I thought was okay. It's not
fine.
On my list.
It's not on mine either.
But that totally has that, right? The kid in that movie, the scientist kid, is like thrown out of his depth into his mother's murder, and now he's investigating, and so you're right about that.
It's a big thing like Vertigo, where like the guy, like the Scotty, is like just this retired police officer who's very out of his depth, doesn't understand what's happening, and then you have like North by Northwest, where this like ad executive is suddenly thrown into this international like spy plot, across like New York, Chicago, South Dakota. It's just something that like was very Hitchcockian. I think that this isn't about Hitchcock, so maybe I shouldn't go to this. But it's basically like something that formed out of his childhood, like it comes from his childhood. But it's something that kind of trickles down very well into like the later thrillers, and I think that Blue Velvet does that especially well. It also does the voyeurism very well, like that.
Oh yeah,
like that was something that like Rear Window and Psycho all have, and to some degree Vertigo, where it's like this desire to see what you shouldn't be seeing, or like this desire to like gaze almost, like that's something I find very relatable and something that like drives a mystery that they represent very well in this movie. Like just something about Jeffrey Beaumont wants to like keep digging deeper in. Like he knows that this is bad, but there's something about him that is drawing him in.
Yeah,
I think that's really compelling.
Which brings me to I wanted to talk about some of the images in this movie because there's images like again. Huge David Lynch fan, but of all the David Lynch movies, this is the one where there's just a few images that really stick in my brain.
Yeah.
One of them, it might be my favorite image in any David Lynch movie, is Jeffrey the morning after. I think it's the morning after he actually hits.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Isabella Rossellini's character.
Yeah.
He's sitting on his bed, and he's weeping, and there's just almost out of screen in the background this odd little sculpture on the wall. It looks like a little mouth coming out of the wall. And if I remember correctly too, this might be a false memory, but I think the sheets of the bed are actually blue. That image to me is like just perfectly composed. And it's just such a riveting thing because it's something I think a lot of people can relate to, where it's like, this is a coming of age movie in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Jeffrey's looking into himself, and he has seen something in himself that's like horrifying and traumatizing, like his own capacity to do evil and abusive things.
Yeah.
And the acting in that scene is really great, but I also love, even as we have this innocent image of him like kind of weeping and grieving for what he's seen and done, the id, the shadow, is like watching over him in the background in that shot. Just that little creature on the wall that's not even in the center of the frame. Never explained, never really looked at, but it's there.
Interesting.
So I love that. Another image from this movie that I know you love as well is just the shot of Dean Stockwell lip syncing.
Oh, glorious!
What an amazing scene! Yeah. Like I remember watching that for the first time and just like, it's just it has an incredible feeling to it. I don't even know now. Like I've psychoanalyzed this movie a lot for myself.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is about that scene that's so riveting and has like this very odd tone to it, because there's like, it's almost a little bit sad in a way. Like, he's not a good character and you don't have a reason to necessarily like him, but there is something like, there's like a yearning to that scene that's very interesting to me. I don't know, it's just great. It's
something about that song, because that song is amazing. It's by I forget the name, but it's by
Roy Orbison.
Yeah, Roy Orbison. Yeah. And it's like such a...
In Dreams.
In Dreams. It's such a dreamy song.
Yeah.
Something about it just like draws up all those emotions. Something about his voice just does it so well. But
but it's also a horrifying song too. Yeah. The lyrics are about a candy-colored clown called the Sandman who tiptoes into your room every night. It's crazy. It's hard to say. Maybe something has to do with like how moved Frank Booth is. Yes, I think you're right.
Which is strange because fuck him.
Yeah, he's a monster.
But there is something like so honest about him. How he's just like so deeply like broken and moved by this song, just like reacting such an anguished way.
Yeah,
which is like it actually has this effect on him. There's something about that is like very powerful.
Yeah,
but it also kind of reminds me how dreams can have these weird like even like weird in context like parts which are just like so intense and moving in ways that you don't really understand or don't make sense in context,
and almost makes you a little uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. I like that explanation of it a lot. This movie also has, I think, some of the most memorable lines that David Lynch ever wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly coming out of Frank Booth's mouth.
Yeah.
We quote these lines too. Like, the line about fuck Heineken, drink Pabst Blue Ribbon. Yeah. If I've said it once, I've said it a dozen times.
Yeah. Like, it's basically the reason why I buy PBRs ever.
It's the best advertising ever.
Also, it's related to that scene with the lip syncing. This is a scene where Frank Booth goes, "Let's fuck! I'll fuck anything that moves!"
Yes.
And then, like, it's this, like, scene where he's doing this, and it cuts to, like, everyone gone, but it's still, like, in the room.
Yes.
Perfect cut, by the way. I love that cut.
Yes.
But it's such a great line, you know?
Yeah, and, I mean, I'm realizing as I'm talking about this that it probably should be further up my list.
Yeah, it should be at least number 3.
It's, because, like, another thing I'm thinking about, as someone who, you know, enjoys the occasional night odyssey myself, like, I love how Jeffrey is being kind of taken along as a passenger during that first, like, nighttime sequence. Yeah. And I specifically remember in that scene how he's just, like, he's being dragged around by Frank Booth, and he's just kind of, like, standing there, like, it's like that John Mulaney line where he's like, "This might as well happen." Like, that feeling of just like, what is going on? Who are these people I'm surrounded by?
He's just like kidnapped and being like drug around. Well, they go. The reason why they go there is because that's where the kid is. That Isabella Rossellini's character.
Right.
So yeah.
But there is also like you're surrounded by these strange people in that whole scene. Like it's not entirely clear what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, why is everyone here? Like, is everyone doing drugs? Question mark. Like, I don't know.
Why is Jack Nance saying threatening things into my ear?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just it's such a good movie. I really like it.
And it's interesting to also think about in the context of Reagan because it's very interesting because it feels like it could be in the 50s, but it could also be in the 80s, and you're not quite sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's in the 80s. But it almost feels like it's in the 50s.
Yeah.
So it has like that kind of weird like middle ground. But also it's like it has like the charm of like the 80s Reagan era. Like when people talk about how great it was in the 80s, it does actually feel that way.
Yeah, I think this is what I was trying to get at earlier.
Very authentic.
Like a lot of times these days, people will just look back on those, like especially for the 80s and the 50s, there will be like a cynical tone to it where it's like, oh, doesn't it seem like it's nice? But it's very evident that the person making this piece of art does not think that the 80s or 50s was nice.
Correct.
And is not really taking seriously in any way that perspective. But I think why this movie is arresting is that it's more honest in that it's got both. Where it's like, no, like there is the authentically sort of like nice and well-intentioned surface world, but that also doesn't invalidate the presence of like something more dark and sinister. And it's, you know, the ending of the movie literally addresses this, where the old lady, I think it's his aunt, is like, you know, the point about like robins eating worms, right? And then she puts a bug in her mouth.
Yeah.
Which is this great little subtle thing that you almost don't even see. It kind of works on a psychological level where she's like, I don't think I could ever eat a bug. And then puts one right in her mouth. It's like, this is us, right? Like we have both this surface world that is capable of these really nice and beautiful things. And we do all have a Frank Booth inside of us.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about just figuring out how to validate both of those things instead of only being one and pretending the other isn't real.
Yeah. It's very sincere in that way. Like, both, it's sincerely beautiful and sincerely ugly at the same time. So, I love that aspect of it. This is aesthetically very rich film.
Yes.
I could watch this a million times.
Yeah.
So.
I have a question.
Yes.
You can cut this out if the answer is no.
Okay.
Can I go to the bathroom really quick? Will that completely fuck up our recording process?
I'll just pause it real quick. Alright, we're back from the bathroom. Okay, so...
He's gonna take a bath. Fuck Heineken.
Yeah, fuck Heineken. Yeah, exactly. The Heineken ruined this.
Yeah, it did. It did. So my number 2 is Blade Runner by Ridley Scott.
Okay.
1982. So in some ways, I actually do, having now talked through Blue Velvet, I think I might flip these two films around. But nevertheless, Blade Runner is an interesting conclusion for me because I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's not a perfect movie. There's very specific things about this that I would change or that I don't think work. And nevertheless, it is still a movie that I really love and would be willing to revisit at almost any time. I think that's just a relationship you have with movies sometimes where it's like, totally understand it if someone else doesn't like it or it's not for them, and there's plenty of things that I think are objectively better than the original Blade Runner, but I think for a film that was so poorly received on its release, it's amazing how much impact its aesthetics have had, culturally. So much, synthwave stuff, retro-futuristic, 80s nostalgia, you can't necessarily just boil it down to Blade Runner, but, it's so Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And even people that have never seen Blade Runner or don't really know about it like things that are very Blade Runner influenced and Blade Runner toned. And I think that really speaks to just, the visual style of this movie and how powerful it is. I think that's where a lot of the good stuff comes from. It's it's the neon, the rain, and the soundtrack. And, those three things are just enough to keep me coming back to this movie all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the story is genuinely interesting, too. I think, some of the pacing is not great. I think the love scene really has not aged well. But, just the way this movie looks and feels, where it's, I think Nick has pointed this out, or one of our friends has pointed this out, it's a horrible world that you wouldn't want to live in, but because of the way it looks, you want to live in the Blade Runner world.
Yeah.
Even though it's supposed to be, this dystopian nightmare, there's something so cool about it.
Something so, sad boy about it a little
Something
bit.
so sad boy. One of my notes about this is, there's something very college about the emotions of Blade Runner in a good way for me. I it's nostalgic for me revisiting, just the earnest emo-ness of this movie. The scene where Harrison Ford takes his little square glass of whiskey out on the deck into the rain, and he drinks it. It's
yeah,
man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is, again, one of those movies where it's if people don't like it, I completely understand why. But stuff like that, it just speaks to me.
That's fair. Yeah. I think I like this movie. I think the one thing that hurts it for me, I don't mind the pace. I can accept the love scene as emotionally complex and messed up. But there's just not a perfect cut. There's the final cut is as close as there is, but it has that footage of the unicorn that's just inserted in there that everyone but Ridley Scott hates. And it's just a little bit defeating in my opinion, but the vibes are so perfect. The world, I really I actually think the pace benefits it a little bit. I think that slow pace fits the rainy kind of almost meditative vibe of it. Mm-hmm. And Rutger Hauer is amazing in this movie.
That's another one of the notes that I have.
Yeah, he's so good.
It's kind of baffling to me that he wasn't in more notable stuff.
I think I haven't seen that much by him, but I know he was in some early Dutch films with Paul Verhoeven.
Oh, interesting.
He was in Turkish Delights, which is an erotic drama, I think, and then there's another one that's a World War II film. I forget what it's called, but it has the word orange in it.
Yeah.
So I'll look it up. But Yeah, he's terrific in this movie. Like, he's so good.
I've also seen him in Eureka, which is not a very good movie.
Okay.
But he's very good in it. He's probably the best thing about Eureka.
Okay.
And so, I guess that's a sample size of 2, but both memorable performances that I liked a lot. Yeah, man, it's, I guess, again, there are some things I could say about the themes. Like, I don't think it's the most complex movie ever, but it does have that kind of, like, classic Nietzschean figure of, like, why did you make me?
Yeah.
It's also sort of a classic Frankenstein figure in a way, like the suffering creation that wants to kill its creator, and that eye-gouging scene is something else.
It's almost, I don't know if it's exact, it is kind of Greek tragedy a little bit, because it has a little bit of, like, it's almost Euripidean in the way that it views the god, or, like, I guess the guy who created him. It's like, he's trying to, like, destroy his, like, maker, or, like, destroy him at his arbitrary will, you know?
Yes.
So, that's definitely, like, yeah, I like the themes of that. I like that story a lot.
Rutger Hauer's mad quest to kill God.
Yeah. I guess he technically does, but he's still around, so it doesn't really work, I guess. But yeah.
And I, like, is there something a little cheesy about the unicorn and the, like, oh, am I an android too?
Yeah.
Yes, but, like, I don't know. If you've listened to a few of these audios by now. You know that I am a sucker for sincerity. I like movies that are sincere in their emotions. And so, for me, it's something I still enjoy, and I do think I like that in the final cut is the good one, right?
Yeah, that's, well, yeah.
The least offensive of the cuts.
Yeah. That's the good one, because there's also a director's cut, which is apparently pretty good. I haven't seen it.
I like the ambiguity of the ending, which Blade Runner 2049 admittedly takes away. But I like the ambiguity of the ending because the implication is sort of the way you get over the question of, like, am I just an automaton, or is there something real about me, is to, like, not exactly ignore the question, but, like, the question doesn't actually matter that much. Like, whether he is or isn't a replicant, Decker comes to identify and realize that the thing that makes humanness or, like, experience unique has less to do with whether you are a machine or human being and more something more abstract and spiritual, which I like as a sort of response to a lot of, like, modernity, the problems raised by modern materialism, where it's like, oh, can you, like, where is the soul? Can you prove that it's real? It's sort of like that question doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't, you're never going to get a satisfying answer to whether you're just a replicant or actually a being with a soul. What matters is that you have to act as if you have a soul, and that's what Decker has to do, even if he is just a replicant.
Yeah.
So I like the ambiguity of the ending, even though I like Blade Runner 2049 as well. I sort of almost like to appreciate this as its own standalone thing, where it's like, to me, in my head canon, we don't really know whether Decker is a replicant or not. The point is that you can't tell, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good defense to it. But yeah, if they had a cut without that, like, unicorn scene, just snip it out, I think this would be pretty much perfect.
Okay.
But Ridley Scott's a dumbass.
He is. Confirmed dumbass Ridley Scott.
Yeah. So, but I mean, on some level, like, it almost doesn't matter because, like, the aesthetic, the atmosphere, the world that it creates is so perfect and holds up even today. And the special effects, again, amazing. Like, it feels like, I don't, thinking back to it, there's, like, no flaws in this, like, especially, like, extremely fleshed out special effects heavy thing.
Yeah.
Even if you know this, like, oh, that is probably a miniature, it's like, looks flawless.
Yeah.
So,
some of the matte paintings in this are so cool.
Yeah.
Like the one of the tower pyramid thing that the creator guy lives at the top of. I mean, it just feels real. Like, it's great.
Definitely. Also, like, talking about the horrible original cut, even though I've never seen it and never want to, and I'm not judging the movie off of that, I still like the fact that Harrison Ford gave, like, terrible voiceover and didn't care, and they still used it.
Yep.
It was terrible. So
yeah.
And that movie exists somewhere. So
yeah.
But thankfully, it's not that easy to find.
It is not.
So okay. So my number 2, and I'm pretty sure it's your number 1, is The Shining.
That is correct.
From 1980.
You know me well.
This is directed by Stanley Kubrick. This is the best horror film of the 1980s. I don't think that's that much of a hot take. But I've read the book and seen the movie, so it's kind of interesting to compare the two. The book, the movie has a different villain than the book, kind of. Because in the book, the villain is pretty much just the hotel. And the hotel is kind of demonically influencing these three people, especially Jack, because he's the most susceptible due to his, like, past, like, having been abused by his dad and stuff. But in the movie, you don't really get that background all that much. You get a little bit of Jack apparently injured Danny, and it seems like he probably hits Wendy too, just based off of how, like, stressed she is. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's pretty much
such an understatement.
Yeah,
she's a little stressed out in this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, just keeping it light here, but it's the villain in the movie is more so Jack. You see him initially, and he's like, there's clearly something wrong with this guy. Like, something about him is not normal, and he's like, you kind of know that if he's in the same position as the Bradys or Grady's or whatever, he's going to snap. You like in the first scene, you just kind of know it's happening.
He's uncomfortable to be around.
Yeah, something about Jack Nicholson's smile, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of this is like a tension between like Kubrick and King. Like, I know King doesn't like this movie, but like
fuck him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not a big King fan overall. Yeah. I mean, he's fine, but I'm not like that big on him. Yeah. But like, the thing about King is that like he wanted Jack to be like this normal everyday guy who's kind of like transformed over the course of this film, whereas he objected to Jack Nicholson being cast because Jack Nicholson does not look that normal. He looks a little bit creepy, but I think what Kubrick was trying to do with the story does actually fit for that, because the book is more about like demonic influence or like demonic oppression, or in to some degree demonic like possession too, whereas the movie is more about original sin, about someone who's already like got that in him, and you don't really get that from like Wendy or Danny having that, but you do specifically see that in like Jack. So they do have like different villains and then different effects, but you can also still like get a lot of like the demonic like haunted house stuff going on here, because like there's that scene where he like encounters Grady in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. He's like seeing this vision of like people at the ballroom. It's all fancy. Whenever I think about that scene, I'm like, he's probably at the most vulnerable point he could possibly be, because like he's basically surrounded by demons, and he's basically giving into them. Like he's basically giving up at that point. The one scene that actually is like dialogue is like replicated exactly in the film is the scene with the hard man's burden scene, or the
white man's burden.
Yeah, that scene with
white man's burden, Lloyd, my man.
Yeah, that like scene with at the bar is exactly the same in the book, but that scene's kind of like the point where he's lost.
Yeah,
it's like gone. So, yeah. But there's a lot more to explain in this film. But I'll let you like, what do you think about this? Because there's just a lot to go through.
Yeah, I mean, not to completely rehash our last video, but I put this in the same bucket as Eyes Wide Shut, in that this is Kubrick at the apex of his career, making these movies that I would describe as like prismatic, in the sense that it's sort of like you can come back to it a dozen times and there's always something new that kind of comes out, and I think there's a variety of interpretations that are interesting and compelling. And like the very best art, it's like it's very fun to talk about how people's interpretations differ on these movies, and it actually adds something, because these movies like prompt discussion. To use an analogy from another podcast I like, Weird Studies, they talk about like Lynch movies. Every Lynch movie has a closet, right? Or like a box that isn't opened. Some mystery space that the viewer never penetrates into, that enables something new to kind of always come back into the movie. And that's the case for The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut, where there's like a backside to The Shining that you never really fully get to. And so it's very rich, and like there's always something else to take out of it. And that's why, even though a movie like Room 237
exactly.
is kind of like stupid, but it's also neat to me that these movies can elicit such a strong reaction out of people, and I think it speaks to just how great they are. I also think it's striking how many people can enjoy The Shining. Like, this is a movie I've watched with my parents. It's a movie I've watched with you, my artsiest film friend. Like, it has broad appeal in a way that doesn't bring it down at all. It really, like, a lot of people get something out of The Shining. Yeah,
my mom saw this in theaters and liked it when it first came out. Like, we've just, like, friends who are, like, everyone from, like, basically a normie, or, like, just, like, a casual film fan, people who don't even really care all that much about movies, all the way to people who are, like, obsessed with them.
Yep.
pretty much, unless you're like, the only people I've seen who don't like it are like King fans.
Yeah.
But besides that, like, you probably will like this movie.
Yeah, and I think that matters not because like broadness of appeal makes something good, but more like it speaks to how good this is, that like it can have such a wide audience and yet also sustain like extremely niche and esoteric interpretations.
Yeah, the Room 237 documentary, it is a good like good like data point to show how like obscure you can get with it. Mm-hmm. It's also pretty embarrassing if you're a fan of The Shining. if this was like if The Shining was like some small movie that most people didn't like, that film probably would have like really damaged a lot of my love for this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe want to like rewatch it to make sure I actually did like it at one point. But it's just like when you have this guy who's like, oh, clearly this is about the Holocaust, because you see they have a German typewriter there, and clearly he's trying to hyperlink to the Holocaust, even though like German typewriters are high quality. That's probably, they just had a German typewriter, you know. It's like,
yep,
it's just like crazy stuff.
But it's that Kubrickian detail where it's like, it's anything could be meaningful. Yeah. How do I know what to pay attention to?
Yeah, everything in the triage is at the highest tier.
Yes.
Like, everything means something, and it means everything. Yeah. Everything is everything, you know?
And so I'm a big fan of a YouTube... Well, not necessarily a big fan, but I'm a big fan of Robert Eger's theory about this movie, which is to grossly oversimplify that it's a movie about child abuse, and that there's a lot of subtle hints in the movie that Kubrick wanted us to think that Danny was being abused. Now, I'm not dogmatic about this. Like, I like everything you just articulated about how you read it. I think is interesting and like completely valid as well. But one of the things I enjoy about Rob Eger's videos about The Shining is that he pulls out so many weird, interesting things that like they're there. Like they're on screen. You can see them. Doesn't necessarily tell us what Kubrick wanted us to think about them. But the fact that you can do that with this movie is really, really cool. Like, there's a scene where Wendy is, I think she's like, this is after, what's-his-face, the main character has started to freak out.
Jack Torrance?
Jack Torrance has started to freak out. She's like in the boiler room in the basement. There is an entire wall of gay BDSM pornography directly behind her that if you have the Blu-ray, you can just clearly make out that it's there. It's a bunch of different posters and cutouts.
Interesting.
And you can't like zoom in a ton, but from what you could tell, it's like pretty graphic stuff. Kubrick wanted that there. Kubrick put that there. Like, what does that mean? What is it about? You know, you don't necessarily get answers to that. But there's a ton of things like that that are just in the background that are, I think, playing on your subconscious a little bit in this movie. It's the elevator scene with the blood. There's a tiny, not necessarily a body, but there's something in there. There's a solid figure that flops out underneath the big tide of blood. That you can see if you slow it down. Again, that Kubrick told somebody to put that in there.
Yeah.
Why is it there? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that about it, and I think it can and should be endlessly reinterpreted, and yeah, deserves the compliment that is.
Yes, exactly. We should also talk about Wendy, because she's like the hero of the story.
Yeah.
It's very easy to talk about Jack. So much of it is like, so much hinges on him, but like Wendy's like, she comes off as like this meek, like screaming lady a little bit. Mm-hmm. But she's actually surprisingly strong. Yeah. Like, she wins. Like, at the end of the day, she's able to get Danny and her out and away from this guy.
It's a Kubrick movie with a happy ending.
It's a happy ending for the good guys. But yes.
Well, Jack Torrance gets what he wants, though, too. He gets to live in the Overlook forever.
Yeah, that's true. He's stuck in the picture, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Shelley Duvall gives an incredible performance, partly because of the intense treatment that she received.
Arguably excessive, but nevertheless,
like, she turned in quite the performance.
Yeah.
Like, it really does show that like she put in her all into this, and it holds up. It's probably, I think it's like her only, like one of her only movies that she did without Altman. Like, Robert Altman found her, and she was in like all his 70s movies. And I think this is like one of the only ones that she was in without him, which is kind of crazy. And it kind of like was one of, I guess maybe it just like distressed her so much, or like was so intense that she never really did more movies after that.
Yeah,
which is kind of sad. But
I mean, it says something that Kubrick doesn't have a ton of returning actors in his films.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like working with him. But you know, if there's anything we could say about her, she is better than Stephen King thought she was. So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a masterpiece. It also has a liminal like hotel
Yeah.
Like, it does play on the liminal spaces a little bit, because it's, like, completely empty. Usually hotels have a lot more people than that, so...
Yeah. Are you familiar with The Caretaker, the ambient artist?
I've listened to that whole, like, the big album.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's an artist that I really love. All of his work is pretty much inspired by this movie.
Oh, wow.
That's
that
where everything... Everywhere at the end of... No, that's the movie.
Everywhere at the End of Time?
Yes.
I think it is.
The reuse of, like, classic ballroom tracks was inspired by the ballroom scene in this movie.
Interesting.
And that's kind of where that entire art, even though it goes in a totally different direction and becomes something about, like, dementia and aging, the original inspiration of The Caretaker came from this, and Delbert Graydon being the caretaker and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the probably the best haunted house movie ever made.
Yeah.
So, terrific movie. Okay, so my last one is the short film about killing by Krzysztof Kieślowski.
Okay.
Now, I am not as big a fan of a short film about killing as I am about Decalogue 5. I thought about putting the Decalogue on here because I did The Return, but I was also a little bit... The Return was a bit of a stretch already. And the only reason I did that is because there were enough people who were comparing it to a movie and, like, kind of blurring the lines. But the Decalogue is just a miniseries, so I can't really do that. But I do really love Decalogue 5, and I think that everything that makes that, like, episode work is still retained into killing, the short film about killing. I do think that this film has a bit more slack, and it doesn't necessarily help. But I also don't think it hurts either. I don't think it, like, ruins this movie. I think it just, like, changes it in certain ways. Most of the changes, besides, like, drawing out the killing, most of the changes are related to sussing out this theme of chance that Kieślowski has in a lot of his movies, where, like, people are kind of subject to chance, or, like, will encounter, like, different life circumstances depending on how things go. Like, there was a film in the 80s that he made called Blind Chance, and it's basically about this guy who's, like, running towards, like, a train, and there are 3 different versions of that story. One of he gets on the train, the other one he misses the train, the other one he also misses the train but trips or something. So you have, like, these 3 stories, and one of them he becomes, like, a communist dictator, the other one he becomes a normal person, and another one he becomes, like, a hardcore, like, revolutionary. So the film is basically about how, like, these small, like, chance encounters can, like, influence how your life goes in really unique ways. That's a very common thing in Kieślowski, and that's something that he brings to a short film about killing specifically. But without totally spoiling it, this is basically a film about a guy who's, like, this kid who randomly murders this taxi driver, just completely, like, unmotivated, just does it to do it. He's, like, it's just a horrific, indefensible crime, and he's put on trial and is given the death penalty, and the film tries to compare the death penalty, like the kind of just, like, reckless killing, with this, like, cold calculated state killing. It's basically an anti-death penalty film. It was very influential in getting the death penalty banned in Poland, and it kind of ties into the Catholic themes of, like, life has value, or at least, like, this is going to be hot take. This is a Pope John Paul II Catholic Church movie. Okay. It does not necessarily reflect the Catholic Church of the Reformation, which was trying to kill everyone. It does not reflect. It does not reflect the beliefs of the Inquisition. Sure. But it does reflect the Church's beliefs as of Pope John Paul II. Right. So it's basically, like, it's a very, like, straightforward, like, death penalty bad movie. Yeah. But the way he does it is just so powerful. Like, it will actually, like, even if you're, like, a hardened, like, death penalty is good or it should be available, it'll actually make you, like, think twice. It'll actually, like, hit you in the gut, just really how powerful Kieślowski can be. I think what makes this film most interesting on a formal level is just how many filters it uses. Have you ever seen any, like, screenshots of this movie?
I have not. So no. When I said that I have some foreign film gaps in the 80s I'd like to fill in, I was mostly talking about Kieślowski. Yeah. Because he seems really, really interesting, and I haven't really seen enough of his stuff.
Yeah, he's great. He's probably, like, the best director that people don't watch enough. But this guy uses, like, so the cinematographer uses, the cinematographer for this film, same guy does Double Life of Veronique and 3 Colors Blue, actually. This guy loves filters. He loves, like, layering filters on stuff. There's some shots with up to, like, 3 filters on top of each other in this. And it gives this effect of, like, this kind of, like, piss yellow. Like, just, like, ugly, like, gross, like, color to it. Like almost looks like a tinting. Yeah. Or like he'll like put some half of the screen in dark so that like some parts of it are dark and stuff in a very almost like in a silent film way where you have like certain parts are like highlighted in the visual dialogue, but it's a very unique like formal thing he does. Just to make it look a lot grosser and like make the world look nastier. Even like the very opening credits of a short film about killing, you have just like images of death. Like you have like a dead like pig in like the water, like a ditch, and you have this scene where these kids are like tying up a cat by the neck with a shoelace and hanging it up. Just like these gross like violent images that are just kind of disgusting. That kind of like emphasize the role of violence in this world. So there's definitely like an environmental element like that. And for a director like Kieślowski who does so much like close-ups, like a lot of his movies are built on that like close-up. He does a good job of developing the world of this. Like it really does feel like a real world that you can be transported to, even though it's like a horrible world that is like just awful. But he does a good job of like showing the violent elements so that like the violence that this guy does makes sense. But I think like just the way that he depicts the cold, calculating nature of the death penalty in this movie will like affect you no matter what your position on this issue is. It's just very intense. It's the kind of thing that makes me like hold my breath and like makes my knuckles go white just by how hard I'm clenching my fists.
Wow.
It's just like there's such an intense spiritual quality to Kieślowski's films. I don't quite know how he does it.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with the fact that every shot is basically a close like a handheld shot. Like even very subtly, you can kind of tell that all of them are handheld. Something like that. Something about like the texture of the world. It's hard to put into words, but if there's anything about this film that I think like in rewatching it, why I would put this above like The Shining or all these others, and why I was able to knock stuff off this list, it was pretty much just because of just how much of a punch in the gut this is. Just like filmmaking at its most powerful.
Yeah.
So.
We watched one of the Ten Commandments short films together,
we watched Decalogue 1, which is a great film.
So that's my only Kieślowski experience. Because did he make On the Silver Globe?
No, that was Andrzej Żuławski.
Okay, Żuławski. I also need to watch more of him. But, yeah, so short film about killing. Decalogue 1 that I have seen. I just remember, what is that, like an hour long, 40 minutes long?
Approximately
like that?
An hour, yeah.
I remember us watching that, and we had some other friends with us too, and like one of those experiences where the film ends and everyone just sits in silence for like 5 minutes afterwards, because it was just like, to your point, like it was hard to articulate exactly why it was so impactful. Like there wasn't just any one thing, but it really felt like it was actually oddly refreshing in the way that it treated human tragedy with like authenticity.
Yeah,
and was like, no, like this is like. It's very tempting to just, I think maybe this is what it is. Like in our internet era, we're so inured to bad news all the time that it's easier to just gloss over one person's death as like, well, that's just the way things are. But what I took away from that movie was a real focus on like actually taking seriously and going into the small world of people who are impacted by this tragedy and showing that this person's life actually really mattered a lot. I think that was part of why it was so just impactful, is like there was a real compassion to it. That it sounds like in an odd way this movie might also have, even though it's kind of off-putting.
Yeah, it's the extended version of Decalogue 5. So if you've seen Decalogue 5, it's just basically like a longer version by like 20-ish minutes. Yeah, I do like the tighter Decalogue 5 is a bit tighter, but it definitely like takes that death penalty very seriously. I think if there's one thing that this does, even for people who come out of this who are still in favor of the death penalty, it at least shows that this is still not like a great, like this is a bad thing that's happening. Like even if it is necessary, this is not like a celebratory moment. This is like a very low moment in someone's life, and like very like spiritually dark thing that has to happen.
Yeah.
That is not like a perfect world at all.
Yeah.
And I think that like at the very least like that will like resonate with you. So yeah, very powerful movie. It's not as fun as some of the earlier ones, but I think it's like spiritually the most like powerful of them all.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yep.
Good note to end on.
Yep. Yep. Real chipper ending.
Yeah.
So tune in next week for the yearly bonus video on Patreon.
And remember, fuck Heineken, drink Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Exactly.